In January 2028, Sony is set to implement a policy that will phase out the sale of physical, disc-based video games worldwide. The online reaction was immediate. Across forums and social media, longtime customers are treating this mandate as an expiration date on their ability to truly own the products they buy. But beneath the outcry is a quieter demographic, gamers who haven't actually touched a physical game case in over a decade, with many ditching the disc entirely back in the PlayStation 3 era. What specific incentives drove these early adopters to abandon physical media 10 years before they were forced to? It turns out the 2028 deadline is the conclusion of a transition that millions of players actually started on their own terms, long before any corporate mandate was announced. To understand that shift, we have to look inside the digital ecosystem, at the specific financial math that convinced players to go entirely discless. It comes down to a specific workaround: two friends sharing accounts and setting each other's consoles as their primary hardware. In this configuration, the pair only has to buy the game once. They split the cost of a single digital license right down the middle. Even though there is only one purchase, the system allows both users to play that game at the exact same time, immediately cutting the price of new releases in half. This setup relies on absolute trust, since you have to give your login credentials to another person. But for many, the savings outweighed the security risk. For those who made it work, this workaround created a permanent discount that a physical disc tied to a single piece of plastic simply couldn't match. Beyond account sharing, early digital storefronts offered a pricing advantage that retail stores physically couldn't offer. For years, digital game purchases in many regions completely bypassed standard sales taxes that were once mandatory at physical checkouts. This created a consistent price gap at the point of sale. Because the digital version was routinely cheaper, it provided a constant incentive for consumers to stop visiting retail stores. Eventually, regional governments recognized the loss in tax revenue and passed new legislation specifically to tax digital media. This change neutralized the tax-free advantage of the digital storefront, bringing the price of a download back in line with a physical disc. While the tax advantage disappeared, players didn't return to discs. By then, they had built libraries of hundreds of digital titles, and the convenience of instant access without swapping plastic cards meant they were already settled into the new ecosystem. This brings us back to the reality of the 2028 deadline and the manufacturing infrastructure that is about to be dismantled. The core trade-off of the digital era is that consumers are no longer buying tangible property. They are purchasing a license that can be revoked. Some digital advocates argue that long-term ownership doesn't matter for games that are only played once and then deleted to make room for the next one. But that logic ignores a flaw in every digital library: the absolute requirement for a continuous, functioning internet connection. If a service provider has an outage or your local connection drops, you are instantly locked out of the software you paid for. It is a server-dependent reality that is fundamentally different from the offline permanence of a physical disc kept on a shelf. Sony's 2028 deadline forces every player to make a final choice: accept the convenience of the cloud, or keep fighting for the right to hold the games they buy in their own hands.